next we've got to try to find a few compositions. So the little circle there is not a multiplication symbol. That is actually a composition symbol. It means f of g of 2. So you could read that as, when you see f circle g of 2, what that means is f of g of 2. And it's a composition, so you're going to find the result for g of 2 and then let that be the input of the function f. Last time I made some analogies with some machines, saying that you could put something in on the left here as your input, and this could be a function g, let's say. Then you'll get an output of g, but that becomes the input of another function f. So this is the concept behind a composition of functions. It's that the output of one function becomes the input of another, and then you get the final output of the composition on the right. So in this problem, g has an input here of 2, so they're trying to put a 2 in on the left. And this statement here tells us that -10 will pop out of the g function on the right. -10 will pop out as the output for the g function. But then that -10 will now be used as the input of f. So as we can see here, -10 is the input of f, and then 15 is like the final result after it goes through both machines. Okay, so this -10 can be called g of 2. That's after 2 has been sent into the g machine. But when it comes out on the other side, this is going to be what we call f of g of 2. And that's going to be 15. Okay, so that's the final answer then. 15. Alright, now the next one gives us a formula for f and a formula for g, and then they're wanting us to do a composition of functions. They want f of g of 4. So we're obviously putting 4 in on the left side of the machines. You also have to think carefully about like which machine comes first here in the composition. Alright, so which machine is on the left here? F or G? Yeah, G, exactly. Okay, so this is function G, this is function F. We're trying to find f of G of 4, which means we should calculate what G of 4 is first in order to plug it into f. Okay, so our input to this whole chain is 4. So you got to put a 4 here on the left. He is the input of G. Now, in order to calculate what comes out, we should use the rule for G. G's rule is 4 plus radical x. That's what he does to his inputs. So what comes out then of the G machine? Yeah, let's see. G of 4 will be found by 4 plus radical 4 which is 4 plus 2, which is 6, yes. So 6 comes out. And then we can simplify this. Now that we know what g of 4 is, we'll just call it f of 6 then, because g of 4 is 6. We just showed that right here. Now 6 will become the input of f, and f's formula is this. We have to do the square root of x squared plus 2. So now we're finding f of g of 4, which is, of course, f of 6. So we need the square root of 6 squared plus 2. That's the square root of 38, I guess. And there we go. Radical 38. Now what if we had to leave it general, where we didn't even know what the number was, like for an input? They instead want an input of just x. So what this means is we're gonna plug one formula into another. Okay, so they give us two functions, f and g. They want us to find f of g, so we assume that g is gonna be the function on the left here. And then here's the function f. Now what g does to x, like if you put x in on the left, what comes out is apparently this. His rule is x plus 2 over 3. So if you leave the input just as x, then that's gonna be what comes out. So let's just put that right here. That's what comes out. But the output of g has to become the input of f. And so it's a whole formula here that gets plugged into the machine. Now what f wants to do is it wants to take whatever comes in and do whatever his input is minus 1 and then a square root. But this time his input is not just x. If his input was x, then of course his output would be radical x minus 1. But x isn't his input now. This whole formula is his input. So what that means is we want to write a square root of something minus 1, and it's going to be a whole formula. The formula to use is x plus 2 over 3. And that's going to be our result of the composition. It's about taking one formula and basically substituting it into another formula. So if you want to do it like without the machines even, what you could do is we're finding f of g of x. So just take that formula for g of x and put it in the parentheses. So you're basically finding f of x plus 2 over 3. And if it was just f of x that they wanted, we know that f of x would simply be square root of x minus 1. And f of apple would be the square root of apple minus 1. And so the same kind of approach applies here. We got to do the square root of x plus 2 over 3 minus 1 then. Plug in one function into another. That's a composition of functions.